What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have how to find happiness in India from an American's perspective. Before we dive into the video, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button, get a video a thumbs up, and let's get right to it.
You have to advocate for yourself, but you got to do it with kindness. You have to respect the culture. And that's the thing I always think is that I'm in somebody else's country. I'm not in America anymore.
Meet Cameron, an American who moved to India half a year ago. He successfully sold his business back in the US and is now homeschooling his 3 kids in India. Cameron shared what made well-off Americans move from a peaceful neighborhood in Colorado to chaotic Bangalore, how much his family of 5 spends on living in India, and what makes India a great place for raising kids. I'm Max Chernov, let's go!
Why India? Why not like Thailand or the Philippines or something
Yeah.
else?
So the depth of the culture for us was that most cultures are really interesting, but India seems to have this unusual amount of depth in their culture where there's just an endless number of things to do and an endless amount of history and temples and museums. It's just
That's
an
true.
unlimited amount of education you can have, and especially for our children. We thought, man, they can just dive in to engineering, they could do math. So we figured there's got to be some great homeschooling opportunities for our children. We just felt at the end of the day that we couldn't stay in the United States with the children we have and be happy there, because our future, it didn't seem like our future was in the United States at that point. Because we're entrepreneurs, we'd have to restart businesses again. And we were very burnt out, very tired from running businesses for 7 years. The first month I had trouble
I can't
sleeping.
imagine. I do YouTube, and this is self-employed on my taxes, but like starting your own business, wow, I'm sure if successful, very rewarding, very rewarding, but very just draining, I'm sure, mentally, emotionally, physically. I can end this when it's not successful. I can assume it'd be super duper draining, especially if you have a family that you also want to spend time with. So I can understand. He said, "Hey, we was just burnt out."
When I got here. We live in a suburb in Colorado that's pretty laid back. It's like you mow your lawn, you go outside, you back your car out onto the street, you go out, hi neighbor, hi, and then you go at night, you don't hear anything except for the crickets, the sound of the snow falling. And here you go outside and it's mayhem. It's like immediately people are looking at you, they're curious about you. The sounds of the horns of the cars, and just, it's so crazy the amount of energy cooped up in the city. That was a lot for me to handle at first.
I know some people after coming to India, they start to hate it. Some people just love it, like instantly. Some people start hating it. What was your relationships with India? Do you like struggle to accept it? What's going on? Or
if we were to talk to my wife, she's handled this transition so well. I would say I love the weather, I love the food, and the people are great. They've been super helpful and friendly. The thing that I've resisted a little bit is being noticed in public, and admittedly, I have a fanny pack. It makes me look even more like a tourist, blonde hair, blue eyes, and that's okay. But sometimes it's a little overwhelming for me to be noticed with my family when I'm out. I always choose kindness, but in the United States, people keep their distance. They don't even look at you in the eye, which I think is kind of sad sometimes. I love the way Indians try to look inside your soul. It's just a little bit overwhelming for me at times to be in public with all the sounds. You're trying to find an Uber or a car, and then you have people that are talking to you, you don't understand them, you can't hear them. So there's things that cause stress, but we're learning how to handle that better.
I noticed
I think my wife for sure would be extremely overwhelmed by so much noise and sounds and just everything happening at one time. Like I, I guess I'm used to it in a sense. It doesn't really bother me. Like I can have different noises and sounds playing, but like let's say she's trying to like in the car, it's raining. She's trying to focus. She's gonna turn the music off because that music is me. If I'm in the car and it's raining, turn the music up because the music helps me focus. Like it helps. I like it. And then there can be like 3 or 4 different sounds going on at one time. But if I'm like watching TV, like I'm locked, I'm tuned everything else out around me. And so that's the difference. But it would be a bit overwhelming for me too, as well. It's just I'm always small city over big city, small population. I don't ever want to be in an environment like live in an environment where there's just so much going on all the time and there's so many people. It's just, and I understand some people do it, some people love it, but I need like small city, uh, small population, and where you're just kind of it's not a ton of traffic, it's not a ton of everything, a lot going on at one time. But yeah,
People, they're really curious. They ask questions. They look at you. They stare at you. It's kind of cool that people are super warm. I agree. It's like it
yeah.
can be overwhelming, and yeah,
Yes.
you have a lot of stares
Yes.
at the same time.
I will say that my favorite thing about India is the way people try to connect and help. Like they'll just look at you. I'll look away and I see somebody, staring. In the United States, that's considered really rude, right? Like if you stare at, you're not ever supposed to stare. But what I've learned
Not
about
there.
India is people are so curious. They maybe haven't seen somebody like me before, I think I'm pretty common, I'm pretty normal, but they may think that I'm unique for whatever reason. But they're trying to they're seeking to understand. That's really cool. I think it's awesome that they're willing to help us and take their time to help our family. We're very grateful.
What's the other like cultural differences that you already experienced here?
This combination of chaos and then also adhering to a minor detail. So on one hand, you have the roads. There's supposed to be rules out there, nobody follows them. It's crazy when you're out there driving. But there's also like sometimes people get really hung up on one detail. For example, when we're signing the lease to our apartment, our deal fell through because my wife's signature didn't match her older signature.
Are you
And
serious?
the landlord was like, nope, sorry, we got to cancel your lease.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So all of a sudden it was just chaos, chaos, chaos. And then one detail, tripped up the entire thing that they found important. So I would just,
That would absolutely freaking suck. As someone who never writes his signature the same, like that would suck. That would suck. Jeez.
say the laws in the United States are fairly rigorous and strict and people adhere to them. Here it seems like more of a gray area around all the laws, like you pick and choose. But the one thing I've learned here is to advocate for yourself. If somebody says no, you should always ask and push a little bit. For example, we went to a museum the other day, a science museum, and they're like, you can't come in. You have to order tickets ahead of time. I'm like, come on, really? I was like, like how it is. And I was like, is it okay maybe if you'll make an exception for us this one time? And I don't want to be an entitled American on that front of like, oh man, we're Americans, we deserve everything. We don't expect that at all. But sometimes there's these crazy rules. And I said, can you let us in and our family in? We just took an Uber. We'd really appreciate it. Okay, come in. And then the other one is at Cubbon Park the other day. We're playing Frisbee. And people, they don't know Frisbee as well here. They're looking at us like, whoa, what is that? Throwing a disc around. But all of a sudden, a guy comes up to us and starts whistling, like a park ranger, they would call it. And he's like, stop. And I'm like, what? He's like, you're not allowed to play Frisbee. And I'm thinking, gosh, this is a park. Like, isn't that the point? So there's these rules that are just, they seem so odd to me. Like, if
I
you
guess that those are strange. I will say the traffic rules. If there is rules, I just don't look like from what I've seen and I guess I'll say in big cities, where there's just a ton of traffic. It don't look like many people are following the rules yet. Traffic flows. Everybody just kind of follows the flow of traffic, and they fit in where they can fit in, and they squeeze around and whatever it takes. But that I don't know about the other rules in India. Y'all got to talk to me in the comment section. Would it be like he's explaining, or maybe just from his perspective, this is how he's experiencing life in India?
built a park, there'd be certainly you'd allow somebody to throw a football around or a Frisbee. But in India, they have occasionally these rules that just seem so odd to me as an American. You're always never sure when they're going to come in and be like, you can't do something, because there's lawlessness and then there's lawlessness and then there's one rule that it's like so random to us. So that's been interesting.
What I so far understand about India, you're kind of supposed to push the limits a little bit always.
Yeah.
And it's what Indians also do. So basically they love to negotiate. they love to like, okay, try. If it works, it's good. If it doesn't work, okay, it's fine. So you
I feel
always like
that.
pushing a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, you have to advocate for yourself, but you got to do it with kindness. You have to respect the culture. And that's the thing I always think is that I'm in somebody else's country. I'm not in America anymore. So there's a certain amount of empathy I need to have at all times here, knowing that it's not my country. I'm here as a visitor, as a guest. I am not a citizen. And that's something that we don't take lightly at all. We always think about, man, like, let's not be those arrogant. I don't want to be that guy, you know, with like looking at my watch, like, oh, the Uber's 5 minutes late, I'm gonna cancel, you know, and I really wanna be kind. I've struggled with that though. I do have a little bit of type A tendencies. I am a business person, so I'm trying to integrate with this culture.
Okay.
It's just I'm getting better at it every month, but I admit that I'm not a finished product yet. The thing that appealed to us about India is that there's so much more help. We didn't have any help in the United States. So we burned out because we didn't have any help. We cooked ourselves, we cleaned ourselves.
I
It was
feel that.
always like we were just exhausted.
I
It's not
feel
common
that.
in Europe or in the US, but technically, can you get a help or no?
You
It's
can,
impossible.
it's just very expensive. So for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
we had cleaning, but the cleaning in the United States was so expensive that you can only do it once a month or maybe twice a month. You know, you really don't
Yeah,
want to put all
if
your
that.
budget into cleaning your house.
Yeah.
Here,
If that, boy, it's very unaffordable. Um, to the extent, I guess unless you just got money, it may be nothing to you if like you have that kind of money, but you gotta have a decent amount of money. I feel like to be able to afford someone to come in and clean for you. So for the most part, you just do everything yourself. Like you just figure it out. But I know a lot of people that have moved from America, other countries to India. It's more affordable to have someone come in and clean and help out around the house.
it's much, much easier to have help. So that was one of the things when we talked to Augustine. She's like, you don't understand. Like, you don't know how good it is here to get help. And as a big family, having a cook, oh my goodness. Like this morning, I'm so used to making breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
And I just woke up and came outside and I had it ready made. And it just frees up our energy for our children who sap
Yeah.
our energy. No, you know, they're wonderful, but they tire you out. So we want to have energy for them. So that was the reason. If you looked at my wife and I and our family and what we did, we were very we pushed ourselves to the max. And I call it like adrenal burnout. But
Yeah.
when you start working too much and you have no balance in life or very little, and your life becomes all about work, you just start to burn out. And we felt like we couldn't escape it unless we left. We felt like
Right.
we were just going to be stuck in this world of like constant repetitive motion where it's like you got to go to this, do this, and this on the weekend, do this during the week. And we were so tired. So just exhausted, you know, personally before we came here. So I think we saw
I feel
India
like
as
that's also just like a big like American mentality. Not really having a work life balance, but just a grind culture, a hustle culture, work nonstop, sleep when you're dead. Um, and a lot of the times you lose sight of what's truly important when you're just trying to grind and hustle and work like constantly nonstop. And you're doing it for your family, but at the same time, because you're doing all that, you're not allowing yourself to spend that time with your family, which is the most important in that moment. Like before I had a family, like I could literally work all day and like I could do this all day and it wasn't an issue. But now that I have a family, like I have a certain point in the day where I'm just gonna stop. I'm done for the day, and if whatever doesn't get done, doesn't get done. But like I do, like want to bond with my son. I want to spend time with my wife, um, and she definitely let me know, like, hey, you need to spend more time with us. Like, there, it's family time. You work, you're working. If I start working too much, you're working too much. Um, in which, of course, I have to work to provide. So, to an extent, I'm like, oh, we got to make money. But I understand where she's coming from because I feel like you just can't get that time back. So I understand. You just burn out, bro. You burn out.
Warmer weather, we saw the ability to not work. And like today, I'm hanging out with you, you know, drinking coffee, and I love it. Thank you for coming, because for me, this is fun. This is what I would rather do than, you know, be doing something I don't love. But just in general, we thought we could retire and then maybe build another fun business that was based around our family instead of going back to the rat race. We're just too tired.
Yeah.
And 3 kids, 3 boys.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you can compare already, but what do you think the better for kids? What is better place for raising kids here and there or there?
both very different. I will say that we've come here with a lot of privilege. I'm always like thinking to myself, oh, India is so great, but we come here with privilege. And I think it's important to say that we're not your standard person living in India that's fighting to make money and working all the time on Saturdays, 6 days a week. So we're very lucky. So I think the United States is great in its own ways, and India is great in its own ways. I think the educational system here is very impressive, especially the math, the engineering, and the science is, there's so many museums and so many classes you can take for robotics.
I love that.
My middle son's in robotics. I'm so impressed by the teachers. And I feel like if we were to move anywhere else, we would be taking a hit, like a negative hit, no doubt about it. Like India is phenomenal. That said, the United States is also great in many ways, their system.
For sure.
I just feel like potentially in the world right now, with the education systems, I feel like they're lagging behind a little bit. I feel like with technology, the world is growing rapidly, and I feel like the education systems are still built to go into factories, for children to go into factories and go into these big corporations. But I feel like it's rapidly changing. And that's why we're homeschooling our children, is we want them to be able to potentially start their own business, have some real life skills, learn some true reality versus just sitting in a classroom.
Bangalore, why this place? Why not Mumbai or somewhere else?
First of all, the weather. I think the weather here is unbelievable. Augustine told us when we came, there's going to be 2 months that will test your patience, March and April. And she's like, by middle of May, it's great. May through, middle of March. I can tell now that that was true. Like the weather here is so nice. And I think it's because of the elevation. So I think the weather is like, we sit out here at night and play cards with our family.
I love that.
It. The other piece is I just love the startup mentality of Bangalore. So the tech, even though I'm not a tech guy at all, like I've always built these super old school businesses like painting, and then I apply tech to it, but it's not based around tech. I just leverage the technology to make those old school businesses win. That's what I try to do. But I feel like this is a great place to be with a nice, people are forward thinking here for India. I think they're like, they're on the cusp, they want to grow, and I think that's really appealing to me.
I feel like I for sure agree with him about the education system. I think India, from videos that I've seen, I've never been to India, but I think India, and I don't know if it's just the parenting, the school standard, but I think they just push harder when it comes to education. And I'm not saying families in America don't, because there are some families that are very strict and pushing. But I just think more so in India, it's more common than in the U.S. And you got them pushing their kids into sectors that will really help them after they graduate, right? We want you to learn science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Like we want you to get your degree in something that's going to really benefit your life after you graduate. And we're not something in America. You got all these different kind of majors that don't really serve to benefit you. That like the major that I chose, it's beneficial for a lot of people, but it wasn't something I truly cared about, and I don't even use it. But I did have fun in college. But I will say, the U.S. education system, for as developed as we are and as rich of a country as we are lacking in that nature.
Like monthly budget for a family of 5 here?
For us, ideally, like the rent is so much lower here. Ideally, I guess in the terms here would be, we would want to spend about 3 to 4 lakh a month for our family.
Which is?
I think it's like $3,000 to $4,000, $3,500 to $4,500 American.
That's not bad for a family of 5. Nah, because I got a family of 3 right now, and you're talking after everything. I probably spend like $3K on a family of 3 at the moment. So family of five in the U.S. I'd probably think you'd probably be looking at around six. Depend. I don't know. It depends on people's budgets. People can get a, but 35 to 4,500 for a family of five is ideal.
US dollars is about what we want to spend here.
Yeah.
But you could do it for less if you had a smaller family. You could do it for much less. We know people that do it at 1,000, like 1 lakh to 1.5 lakh, which is about 1,500, 1,500 American dollars,
Very nice.
$2,000 a month. We don't live the cheapest life. We go to museums, we go to water parks, but that's our goal, is to give our kids an immersive experience. In the United States, I can just say it's a lot more, our cost of living, than that.
In
I
the
can
US, it could be
imagine.
like something, if you need to rent, 15K, something
Whoa,
like that, 12K,
wow,
15K.
wow,
Yeah,
wow.
so
A month?
If you rent.
yeah, I would say United
Where?
States rental in Colorado right now would be 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh.
I love the nature. I mean, you see, that's the.
I know,
I mean,
I know.
that's the eagle.
Yeah, yeah,
What?
I know.
I love it.
Yeah,
Are you considering starting some business here, or no? Not at the moment.
I do run my own vlog, for our family called the Jet Laggers. Shameless
love
plug,
that.
sorry, but that's what I do now.
Please,
Same.
I hope that's
We'll put the link.
okay.
We'll put the link. Yeah, subscribe.
Okay, thank you. But that's what I do now, is I film a family vlog and just show our travels. And I want to continue to grow what I have going, the videos, and build a brand around our family, as long as they're okay with it. I think that they'll have to be on board, but I think it's a good opportunity, not only for me and my wife, but for our children. They love it. They love the fact that we're creating content when we go out. So I think that'll be the business.
I plug in my integration as well. Like we have this 3-day online workshop. So basically, you can, if you want to start a YouTube channel, you can go for it, and it's like a lot of stuff about how to choose the niche, how to monetize it, what's the ways of monetizing, how to beat the algorithm. Because like I see the problem, people starting the YouTube channels, but they don't know how it works. So sometimes people think like, I will be persistent. I will post like 2 videos a week and it will work. But sometimes you see the 100 videos on the channel, it's like, it's not there. The channel is not growing. So basically, that's the thing. If you want to invest successfully, you need to learn how investment world works, basically. So it's the same for the YouTube. So we put the link in the description if you want. It's free, so 3-day workshop. It's a great first step to start a YouTube channel.
I will be signing up because I really want to learn and I want to become better. Where even like the technology you have is really awesome. I'm recognizing some of this, and even that's helpful for me because we want to get our audio quality better. And I just think that on YouTube, there's a lot of, I hate to say it, mediocrity with these videos that come out. And I'm like, you guys, like you have to make compelling content. And I think it takes time. I think we're learning how to do it. But I just think quality over quantity is what we try to do on there, instead of just pumping out, oh, we did this. No, you've got to have a purpose for why you do things.
What would be your advice for Americans, let's say, who are thinking to move to India? How to prepare?
I would say have patience. When you get there, first of all, make sure you're in the right circumstance. You have some sort of passive cash flow, or maybe you're coming here for a job and that's how you make money. So obviously, financially, you'd need to be comfortable enough to be able to, like for us, we have our rentals and we've put in a lot of work to get to where we are. It's not like we didn't just one day be like, oh man, we're just gonna go to India. This was like years of hard work, working on our businesses, selling them in really tough circumstances, getting through some really hard times in our life, and then being like, okay, we're gonna just essentially be retired. Not
love
really
that.
retired, but sort of,
Yeah.
So we had to pay our dues. So I do think there's a process where you have to pay your dues to get somewhere like this. However, if you're looking at moving and you have a setup and you can do it financially one way or another, give yourself some latitude and some patience when you get here. Don't expect to feel great right off the bat. You are going to feel a little bit out of sync. And it's going to take you a minute to learn how to order Swiggy on your phone and make sure they come to the right address.
I feel like I would maybe like not move. I would take a vacation for a couple weeks. Spend time in a certain area that you're thinking about moving to. Kind of see how life is for those couple of weeks. Do you really love it? Is it? And understandably, in a couple of weeks, you're not going to get the same experience as you would get like fully living somewhere. But in those 2 weeks, like, do you love it? Like, do you just have to move, or maybe is it not what you expected it to be? Before you just pack up and move, I would just take a trip, experience things.
It's going to take you a minute to get a SIM card unless you figure out how to do it at the airport, when you come in, which we didn't. Figure out how to get a bank account. We don't have a bank account yet. Give yourself the patience. Know it's going to be really unsettling for the first at least few months, and give yourself a ton of breathing room to accept the chaos.
Yeah. Do you start understanding anything about yourself better? About your personality, about you as an American after like spending 3 months here?
In America, I think that in some ways I was looked up to because I had some success in business, and my wife was looked up to because she had some success in business, and you're rewarded for working really hard and producing and making money. I think that's true anywhere, but I've noticed in India it's just different, that people are interested in us anyway. They're not really worried about our status or worried about how good we are as business people. I don't feel like in India I need to have that production level mindset of like, I got to get up, have my routine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and do that.
Yeah.
Here, I'm learning to just be more chill. I'm learning to wake up. Maybe I drink a coffee. Maybe it's a chai. So I'm learning to loosen up and not be so uptight about a schedule here, because I think it's a little bit more relaxed.
What's the meaning of life for you?
The meaning of life for me is to be, if I'm in my comfort zone, I'm not satisfied. So for me, the meaning of life is to be outside of that little ball where you're comfortable, but then doing some things to keep you sane inside your comfort zone. So it's great to do this and be outside of your comfort zone, but you have to mix it with pleasure.
For sure.
You have to, I go and play golf. I go and enjoy Cubbon Park and walk around. So the key for me in life is to, as long as we're outside of our comfort zone, I think we're adding value to other people, because we're taking these risks and we're changing ourselves, but we're also changing the people around us. It just feels great to be in that zone, to be outside of it. But you can't just do homeschool all the time. You can't be here all the time. You have to have time for yourself. So our key to life is just being outside of our comfort zone and always going with a servant heart of thinking about other people and respecting the country we're in.
I really enjoyed that conversation, and he absolutely seemed like a genuinely really awesome dude. And I'm glad that he found happiness in India, and that's where he found peace, where his family is enjoying life. Like, that is really amazing to me. Y'all talk to me in the comment section. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next. See y'all next time.